In the preaching chapter of the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings, the Buddha points out that a bodhisattva can accomplish perfect enlightenment quickly if he learns and masters the doctrine of innumerable meanings. This profound doctrine is the mystical core of Mahayana Buddhism. The basic belief of the Mahayana Buddhist is that all the, quote, things we think we see and hear around us are not really separate objects, that there is a kind of mysterious interconnectedness. Thus, absolute reality can be referred to as non-dual. All things are truly empty of any separate existence or identity of their own. It is our analytical thinking mind that artificially breaks down absolute reality into separate things in order to solve problems in the ordinary conventional world. This thinking process can be a powerful servant for the benefit of human beings. However, most people let their thinking mind dominate so that many of their actions are not guided by the wisdom and compassion of the Absolute. For a Mahayana Buddhist, it is an article of faith that absolute reality is not perfectly represented by any human idea. In his later development, the Bodhisattva directly experiences the profound truth of that reality. It is beyond all words, thoughts, and concepts. The basic problem for living beings is that anyone who discriminates all the time is bound to suffer, and anyone who thinks of himself as a truly separate being is making a major discrimination. According to Mahayana Buddhism, none of us is really separate from the rest. When, quote, I, me, and mine are emphasized, a whole system of likes and dislikes gets created. These preferences inevitably fail to get constantly satisfied, and the result is suffering. This can go on for a long, long time. The Bodhisattva has great compassion for those who suffer. Therefore, he or she chooses to discriminate also in order to figure out ways to help people in their own terms. From this standpoint, without a rigid vested interest in arguing for or against any particular ideas, with only the objective of helping the sufferers, the Bodhisattva is able to provide relief and pleasure for many. If you reflect on this teaching of innumerable meanings, it will probably stimulate many interesting thoughts. You may get some important insights about your own life. However, no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to totally understand this doctrine. That is, it cannot be fully grasped with the thinking mind. Even as the nature of your own being is mysterious and incomprehensible, so is this great vehicle law mysterious and incomprehensible. The Buddha has seen all the laws and understands the sense in which they are ultimately inexpressible. He desires to help suffering beings. The Buddha observes beings and understands that they differ in their desires. Therefore, he preaches variously to them, using tactful power, so that they will be able to hear his message and make progress. The Buddha has taught many laws. He teaches laws that have different meanings to different people. He knows that different people, according to their ability and aspiration, will make different rates of progress, each on his own path along the ultimate Buddha way. There is really only one true Buddha body, the law body or truth body of the Tathagata. The innumerable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all emanate from this source. The non-dual law body transforms itself and appears in the form of many Buddha bodies so that living beings can be saved and taught. It is as if the Tathagata creates good illusions for people to replace their bad illusions, good and bad being defined in terms of suffering and spiritual development. Eventually, all illusion is given up. Then the absolute reality of the Tathagata's law body can be directly experienced. At the end of the preaching chapter, as at the end of many chapters in the Lotus Sutra, there is a description of some of the benefits gained by members of the assembly as a result of hearing the Buddha's teaching. This particular teaching is said to have stimulated extremely positive reactions of spiritual growth. The highest bodhisattvas learned how to properly contemplate the innumerable meanings, while infinite living beings made a decision to actively seek perfect enlightenment. The third and last chapter of the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings describes further merits associated with hearing this great vehicle law. It is pointed out that this sutra helps people accomplish Buddhahood quickly. If a person hears this teaching, he may realize the relativity of all ideas and conventional laws. That awareness is very important in becoming free of the limitations of the thinking mind. It is taught that this sutra inspires people to practice the virtues of a bodhisattva. Hearing this sutra will help a person develop mercy, compassion, joy, charity, discipline, patience, zeal, meditation, and wisdom. A person so oriented will want to help others, and, therefore, will be brave enough to follow the great vehicle law. Great selfless vows will be made, and many living beings will be saved. At the end of the chapter on merits, which is also the end of the sutra, the Buddha gives specific instructions to the 80,000 bodhisattva mahasattvas in the assembly. He tells them to protect, practice, and propagate the Sutra of Innumerable Meanings. These leaders enthusiastically agree to work to find ways of giving all people the opportunity to hear this teaching so that all can learn it, adore it, and gain the wonderful benefits of hearing the sutra. In response to this expression of commitment, the Buddha praises these great bodhisattvas. He knows that they will be a major source of support for all living beings. He knows that they will bring the benefits of the great vehicle law to all. Moving on to a brief description of a key teaching within the Lotus Sutra itself, the second chapter is focused on tactfulness, or expedient means, or skillful means. So when the world-honored one finished teaching the doctrine of innumerable meanings, he sat cross-legged and contemplated the innumerable meanings. His thinking mind was motionless, thus allowing the bright light of wisdom to grow within his awareness. Then a major fantastical event is described. Flowers of many types rain from the sky. This event symbolizes the Buddha transcending all two-ness. Out of this universal harmony and bliss, the Buddha emanates a ray of light from his forehead, which helps living beings see many worlds. He has broken the non-dual reality down into different aspects in order to communicate with living beings. He wants to teach the Buddha way using an understandable language. As two great bodhisattvas converse about what is revealed by the ray, more is learned about Buddhas and bodhisattvas. There are innumerable Buddhas in many different worlds all throughout the universe. Each is preaching and teaching the law. The bodhisattvas in these worlds practice in various ways and to various degrees. They practice giving alms, showing great zeal, meditating, developing wisdom, and preaching the law. They practice following the Buddha way faithfully, observing the commandments, and having patience in the face of personal abuse. In this conversation, Maitreya, the bodhisattva who is predicted to become the next Buddha after Sakyamuni in our world, is talking with Manjusri, a bodhisattva who is always with Sakyamuni Buddha and who has long been a teacher of the law. Maitreya asks Manjushri about the reason that the Buddha displays the ray of light, which illuminates so many worlds. Manjushri has seen this spiritual sign used by Buddhas in the past. He says Buddhas use it as a signal that they are about to preach the great law, the Sutra of the Lotus Flower of the Wonderful Law. The heart of the Law Flower Sutra is preached in the Tactfulness chapter. The teaching is directed toward Sariputra, who, though wise, has not yet actively entered the path of the Bodhisattvas. The first few sentences show that now, as the Buddha teaches, he is speaking from the framework of the idea that there are innumerable Buddhas throughout the universe. That is, for teaching purposes, we are now in the incomprehensible world of Buddhas. All these countless hundreds of thousands of Buddhas are in fellowship with each other. They all practice the same great vehicle law, preaching and teaching about each other, so that all living beings can know about Buddhahood as the source of comfort and as the spiritual ideal. Sakyamuni tells Sariputra that he is widely taught with all kinds of reasonings and stories. He says his motivation has been to lead living beings away from attachments, and so reducing our level of clinging is a key mechanism for increasing our spiritual awareness according to the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism. The Tathagata is perfect in his wisdom and tactful teaching. He can present exactly the right situation to each person which that person needs in order to grow. He is so kind. He wants to help. And he is fearless in his efforts to end suffering and proclaim the truth. Even though he himself is beyond all discrimination, he discriminates everything and preaches in gentle ways in order to give support to all. A Buddha cannot be evaluated or measured by worldly methods. The law that the Buddhas proclaim is also, in its reality, beyond all words or intellectual understanding. A Buddha is said to have followed the Bodhisattva path in many past lives. In doing so, he followed many Buddhas and learned to perfectly practice all the correct methods of spiritual development. After many eons, such a seeker obtains perfect enlightenment and, as a Buddha, finally understands the meaning of every nature and form. The Mahayana Buddhist would say that you must develop your strength of faith in order to progress spiritually. It is taught that the content of this threefold Lotus Sutra is the ideal focal point for faith, since it is the most profound and wonderful of all written teachings. It is viewed as the most effective pointer available in written form. Because Sariputra wishes people to hear the Buddha's subtle law, he pleads with the Buddha to discriminate and explain it. He talks about how there are many in the assembly who will be able to believe, since in past lifetimes they have already been taught by the Buddha when he was in past lifetimes also. Thus, they will be open to faithfully accepting his profound teaching. Finally, the Buddha agrees and tells all to listen very carefully as he now explains the wonderful rare law of all the Buddha Tathagatas. A very important message in the teaching of the Lotus Sutra is that the Buddhas all around do appear in the world in ways that people can perceive. They do so for one reason and one reason only, namely, all the Buddhas are always focused on the desire to cause all living beings to enter and make progress on the path to Buddhahood. The first step is for a being to realize that he or she does have the Buddha nature within, and to have faith in one's own potential. As such faith grows, the Buddhas will show themselves more and more and help the person understand the implications of following the Buddha way. Stated in different terms, whatever the Buddhas do is always for one purpose: to take the perfect knowledge of the truth of reality and share it with all living beings. Thus, the Tathagata preaches the law to all. We can think of this as being done by means of the one Buddha vehicle. That is, all the various innumerable methods of teaching which are geared to all the different creaturely mentalities are all really getting across the same message. The differences merely reflect the variation in thinking patterns interacting with the compassion of the Tathagata. He wants to draw everyone along the one vehicle way so that suffering will eventually be eliminated. This one vehicle is the great vehicle, the Mahayana. The underlying reality of the universe cannot be broken down into this and that, except by the thinking process, which itself is an aspect of the whole. The idea of the one vehicle teaching is a way to emphasize our fundamental non-duality. The Buddha teaches that we are all in this together, which is a basic reason why the Bodhisattva path is considered superior. The Bodhisattva recognizes his or her interconnectedness and realizes that there is really no such thing as looking out only for himself or herself, or his family, or his nation. These separations are truly artificial and ultimately unreal. The Bodhisattva develops pity and compassion for those aspects of his larger self which are suffering. He voluntarily suffers along with others in order to save all. He consummates this role as a Buddha and helps other bodhisattvas successfully travel the supreme path. And what is the power of the law which the bodhisattvas and Buddhas teach? The Buddha says, listen carefully. He teaches that all those living beings who hear the law will finally obtain perfect knowledge, free from fear. The one vehicle law is a key stimulus in facilitating the process of spiritual development. All the world-honored ones in the universe, all these innumerable Buddhas in all their many Buddha lands, they all spend their time benefiting and rejoicing living beings through preaching the countless tactful Buddha laws. They want all creatures to abide in the great vehicle. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu.